The Linux Action Show is created by Jupiter Broadcasting. It's sponsored by Ting. Go to last.ting.com to save off your first device or plan, and DigitalOcean. Go over to DigitalOcean.com and use our promo code LASTDigital, and then you can spin up your own Linux rig for free. Welcome to the Linux Action Show, episode 365. My name is Chris.
And my name is Noah.
Hey there, Noah. Good morning. Guess what? Big show today. Huge show today.
Really?
Yeah, actually, both Noah and I were kicking around this week. What do we want to talk about? Something that we're both really kind of fired up about, and we both kind of landed on emulation under Linux. Now, stick with me here because this is a pretty interesting topic that just got a lot more interesting this week. We're going to tell you why, and this isn't just like a how-to. This is truly exploring something that is really great under Linux. Now, it's been a long, slow coming for commercial games to come to Linux, and in the absence of that, the Linux community has really done an excellent job of bringing some of the best and some of our favorite classic games to us. Now, this isn't really an episode celebrating classic games so much as celebrating something that the Linux community and open source community has done exceedingly well. We're going to show you a couple of tools to take advantage of all of this hard work that really shine under Linux. Anything from somebody who's mildly interested to somebody who's super passionate about retro games. We're going to talk about that today, but plus, in the news segment, we're going to have to talk about Oculus totally bailing on Linux users. There's a new Ubuntu phone coming out, and finally, maybe a true Google Docs killer. Plus, we've got other things in the news segment, the feedback, and our picks. Noah, huge show. Huge.
I guess so.
I guess we had to go big for episode 365 after all. That doesn't come around every now and then. You got when that happens, you got to go big. And the news was really big this week too, with Venom in the news, some new kernel vulnerabilities that just came out on Thursday or Friday, I think it was actually. We'll talk about that. So a ton of stuff we have to cover. So let's just jump right into our picks. This came right out of the headlines this week. We couldn't ignore it. You guys probably all saw it. The Chill Hub runs Linux. That's right. It is an Ubuntu powered fridge that runs Linux. That's our runs Linux pick right there, Noah. I don't really have a lot to say about this because it's kind of an example of Internet of Things that is a partnership between Canonical and GE. Canonical also announced a partnership with Microsoft and Acer this week to power their Internet of Things with Ubuntu Snappy. Sounds very fancy, doesn't it? It'll be great when it's a shipping product. Chill Hub runs Snappy Ubuntu Core. That's the transactionally updated minimal Ubuntu spin that we've been talking about recently. And, the idea is you have a fridge here with 2 USB ports, Wi-Fi, has apps for iOS and Android, I presume. And then it tells things like it checks sensors for temperature data. It would allow you to use add-on products that would be sold for $50 to $80 a pop to weigh your milk or your beverages and things like that. Now, I think this is a little silly, but Noah, you have a fridge that runs Linux right now, so I'm kind of curious. This seems like the next logical step for somebody like you. Are you interested in this?
No, well, it could be. The reality is I wanted a smart fridge. I'm that guy that I want to be that quintessential guy that if there's something that I can make myself more geeky or more nerdy, I want to try it. I want to play with it. I want to see if. And the problem with that is it leads me down a road of constantly doing things of buy it and then find a way to make it useful, rather than saying what most people do. I have this problem. This technology would fill that void, and I kind of work backwards.
I kind of wonder about maybe overcomplicating our lives if we're gonna do this. Super glad we're doing it with Linux, but at the same time, do I need to spend $150 for an autofill water pitcher sensor to send a notification to my phone? I already have too many notifications. I already have too many things that I worry about. Do I really need to worry about the state of the water in my fridge? I could just fill more water in there when I see it. You know what I mean? Like, I guess.
But you and I were just talking last week. You and I were just talking last week about how you would like to have a fridge at the studio that maybe took an inventory, and when you ran low on whatever it was that was in there, it would send a thing to your Amazon account and automatically reorder that.
The difference there is I envision that more like an Amazon fridge, and maybe it would run Linux as well, but that would be tied in with Amazon services. There wouldn't be, like, the fridge would come with a water sensor. I wouldn't have to spend $150 because it makes Amazon more money when I order more water or whatever the hell they would do.
That's true.
So it's just it feels very commercialized. I'm not the only one who thinks so. If you just time travel a little bit, you say go back to 2006, it seemed like maybe Mark Shuttleworth thought it was a bit of a silly idea, Ubuntu running on a fridge. I mean, or maybe he thought it was a great idea and just saw the future. But here, I'll show a clip. I'll play this clip for you, Noah. This is Mark Shuttleworth from 2006, November 16th, talking about Ubuntu-powered fridge. Rare footage.
Wonderful things possible. For example, Linux appliance. with Ubuntu pre-installed. We call this the fridge.
Yes, that was Mark Shuttleworth doing a Borat. I'm going to play it again because it's a little hard, but that's Mark Shuttleworth pretending to be Borat, introducing the Ubuntu fridge. It is him, I promise, if you're listening to the audio version. And then they'll play the later version.
Ubuntu make wonderful things possible. For example, Linux appliance with Ubuntu pre-installed. We call this the fridge.
That's pretty funny. And so obviously they have some humor about it. In a way, it's kind of remarkable to see Ubuntu running on a fridge. But you could see even back then that, like, at some point, Mark Shuttleworth himself thought the idea was funny enough that he would dress up as Borat and do an infomercial for Ubuntu running on a fridge. And that's a thing. I'll have a link to that in the show notes. I thought that was pretty good. But no, if you buy one, you'll do a review for us, right?
Absolutely.
How come I don't believe you? I don't feel like you're going to buy one of these.
You don't believe I'd do a review, or you don't believe I'd buy the fridge?
Yeah, that I don't think you're actually going to buy the fridge.
I don't know.
I think you're BSing
At this point,
me.
I have no plans to buy an Ubuntu powered fridge. Well, here's the thing: if there was something I could do or play with the fridge that I couldn't already do, I would be perfectly happy to do that. But honestly, my smart fridge, to the extent that a smart fridge can be useful, I have found ways to make it useful.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
So
it has. So you think it has actually sort of been a worthwhile investment?
I think that I could have solved the same thing by setting a tablet up in my kitchen. But the thing that I like about my fridge, the thing that makes it to the point where I would say if I had it to do over again, I'd do the same thing, is when I wake up in the morning and I walk out in the kitchen to get to drink a glass of orange juice, my schedule is right there on the screen. I see what's going on that day. And more importantly, the other day I woke up, realized Sarah had a dentist appointment, and so I realized I was alone in the house with the kids because she had left. And where I had realized that was when I saw it on the fridge. Yeah. But I could accomplish the same thing by just mounting a tablet in my kitchen, right?
Yeah, I suppose. It seems like the harder part is actually being really good about keeping your calendar up to date. That seems like the actual trickier part.
Google, but yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting better about putting things on my calendar.
Yeah.
You know where I put things on my calendar, Noah? Do you want to know how I do that? Up on my
Google
own cloud droplet. That's right, over at DigitalOcean.com. I have gone to OwnCloud, and I think it rocks. Go over to DigitalOcean and check them out. They're a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own cloud server. And I say that like almost instinctively now, but it is really legitimately true. And I think it's worth underscoring because when DigitalOcean removes the friction of setting something up like they have, and what that is spinning up your own virtual server that you have root access to up in the cloud with an HTML5 console. They've removed the difficulty in doing that thing. That's incredible. That's closing that gap and making it possible that when you need to launch your own server, when you need to expand your infrastructure, when you need to scale on demand, when you need to try something, when you want to put a container up in the cloud, you can go to DigitalOcean and you can do it for an incredible value. You can get started in less than 55 seconds, so it's not going to be a huge time investment. That's huge. And I don't know. Maybe I feel like I shouldn't. Honestly, they could probably say 5 minutes, and I'd still be impressed with that. But no, it's 55 seconds. It starts at only $5 a month for 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, one CPU, and a terabyte of transfer that's dedicated to you. You're not going to get surprised by a bandwidth bill. It's just a terabyte of transfer. And DigitalOcean has data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, London, and a really nice brand new one in Germany that's in an ideal location, so that way you can really provide great access to all the locations around Germany as well. But what I love about DigitalOcean is they've wrapped all of this Linux and KVM and all of this great technology around this incredible interface. DigitalOcean's interface is very, very intuitive, and power users can replicate the interface on a larger scale with DigitalOcean's amazing API. They recently revved it. And even before they had revved it, it's even better now, but even before they had revved it and released the new version of the API, I was getting notes from listeners saying, there's just like all these really great things you could do with the DigitalOcean API. You could integrate it in with your Puppet management infrastructure, and if you need to just scale on demand and deploy some servers, you can plug it in with your Juju management system, and you can do the same thing. You can just drag those little charms onto a box, and it will go deploy a droplet on DigitalOcean using the API. I mean, it's super slick, right? But those are all like super high-end features that I never really needed. They never really connected with me. But the notes that have been the most impactful for me are the ones that people are doing some clever stuff with cron and that API. And there's a lot of libraries you can pull from to just kind of take advantage of some of this stuff for you. Also, if you're an Arch user, there's stuff already in the AUR. And if you're an Ubuntu user, there's some PPAs available for you to just give you some of these tools that people have created. And then you can do things like on updates. You can snapshot on the DigitalOcean droplet. Or take a time snapshot, so that way you have, here it was on a Monday, here it was on a Sunday or a Friday or whatever if you're doing something for during the week. All these little neat ideas that have really solved a lot of the fundamental data backup and disaster recovery solutions that used to really take a lot of creative engineering on the back end when you had an on-premises solution. And now with DigitalOcean's API and their built-in tools, taking those snapshots, making those templates, having those systems set up like that is a no-brainer. And there's so much code out there already written by the community that you really don't have to be a whiz to take advantage of it. And there's a ton of great apps. Like last night I was playing around with a DigitalOcean app on my Android device, just messing around with stuff. It's really great because I feel like I can fully manage my infrastructure anywhere I need to be using either the really simple tools on their web or much more in-depth control with the API. So go over to DigitalOcean, check them out. It really is an incredible service. Noah and I have tons of droplets because we love them, and you can get a $10 promo code when you use the code LASTDigital. Apply that to your account. $10 of credits. Try out that $5 rig 2 months for free. Or get a higher end rig. Their pricing plans are really straightforward. I dig this about DigitalOcean because for most of my droplets, I get away at $5 a month because Linux has incredible memory management, and when you put that on top of SSDs, it's amazing what you get for $5 a month. And then recently when I decided to deploy a Minecraft server for my son and my wife, and now my daughter, it turns out that I just looked at their pricing plan and said, you know what? I'll do $20 a month. I get 2 gigabytes of RAM, a 2-core processor, 40 gigabytes of storage space, and 3 freaking terabytes of transfer. I can also resize these on demand as I want. And then, that's great for me. But my co-host on Coda Radio, he'll use it for testing with his clients. So he'll often just use the hourly pricing. And look at that. You click that little toggle, and now all of DigitalOcean's pricing structure has changed to hourly. That is so. You can rent your own crazy powerful Linux rig up in the cloud for pennies. And they also have high volume plans available. DigitalOcean.com. Use the promo code LASTDigital. Go check out the tutorials to really take it to the next level. They're a really great service. They're kicking so much butt with this. LASTDigital, you can get in for free for 2 months. Big thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Linux Action Show. Noah, one of our favorite tools this week saw a pretty great update, and you and I were digging around in our previous picks and realized it has never gotten a spotlight, never made the app pick. It has essentially gone rather unmentioned on the show, except for in passing. We, my friend, must right this wrong today, and not a better time to do it than with a brand new version of Wireshark. So that is our desktop app pick this week. It's a kind of a high-end tool. You've probably heard of it before because it's frickin' famous. But if you're not familiar with Wireshark, it's truly one of the best packet sniffers that technicians could ever have. I mean, there were other tools out there. I don't even remember what Wireshark was called anymore before Wireshark. Do you remember the old name that it used to have? No. Ethereal, right? Is it Ethereal? Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Anyways, you must have used Wireshark in troubleshooting things, right, Noah?
Oh, many times.
Yeah, but
actually, so I'll go through this. So I have like this PTSD thing with Wireshark, and that is every time we hire a technician and we tell them about Wireshark and packet sniffing, one of the first things that comes up is they go home and they try and sniff their network and they realize they don't see any traffic. And and so to avoid all the feedback, if you don't mind, I'll take 30 seconds and just explain. So essentially, if you take a 6-way power plug and I plugged it into an outlet and I plug 5 different devices in there, I am sharing that outlet with those 5 devices. And so they're all physically connected with a piece of copper. And that's kind of how a hub works. But a switch is a little bit different in that when you have a switch, which undoubtedly in 2015, if you're buying hardware to connect multiple computers together, you're probably using a switch. And the way that a switch works is it's only sending information out to a specific switch port. So if I am on switch port 1 and I send a packet that is destined for the MAC address that exists on switch port 2, only switch port 2 is going to see that traffic. And the only way to get around that is to have a more expensive switch, like a managed switch, where I can mirror all the ports, or of course I can plug a hub in between those 2 computers. But if you try and open up Wireshark right now on your home network, you're probably not going to be able to sniff any traffic unless you have a switch that's capable of doing it. And then, of course, because I know that everyone's going to say this, there is ways that you can flood the switch and crash it, and so it essentially turns into a hub.
Or actually, if you just, it depends on your wireless adapter. Some of them are not so capable of it. But wireless networks, by default, are essentially set up like a hub. They're a broadcast domain.
Right.
So you can sniff wireless pretty well with Wireshark.
Yeah, right. There's a couple people that will open it up and then it won't work and then they'll wonder why. It works.
One of the things that's great about Wireshark too is that it's available in GTK or Qt. I always pretty much have used the GTK interface except for with this most recent version. And so talk about a couple things that are new. Tons and tons of bug fixes. A lot of stuff for wireless specifically, but also some fixes for X11 memory leaks. So if you're a Linux user and you've been using Wireshark, this new, I think it's 1.12.5 has just come out. It's definitely worth upgrading because if you use Wireshark for a while and you notice the UI starts to lag out, it turns out Wireshark itself doesn't have the memory leak, but a bug in Wireshark caused a memory leak to occur in X. So it's kind of worth replacing this version because it does lead your whole X server to slow down after a while. So anyways, congratulations to the Wireshark folks for another really awesome tool. It has been one that has been exceedingly useful in troubleshooting, and it's on a switch. It can be exceptionally powerful if you have a managed switch and you can turn on what's called a mirrored port. And this mirrored port will send all of the traffic from all of the ports to this one port. You put a Wireshark machine on that, you can see everything. You see, it's too late. You can see everything. And it's great for troubleshooting. It's great to see what somebody's spamming. And it's also very enlightening to see what the heck is actually transmitted in clear text. You hear all these times, like make sure that when you connect your email server, you're connecting over SSL. Make sure when you log in, it's over SSH and not Telnet. Well, if you run Wireshark, you'll see why. Because you can literally see the text you're typing. When you're going just to an HTTP website and it's not HTTPS, you can read the HTML text in Wireshark, in the packet capture, and you can reassemble the web pages in real time if you have the right tools. It's very fancy. So, Wireshark.org. Yeah,
and the reality is you could to demonstrate that you actually don't need a managed switch. You can run Wireshark on your own machine, and then you can go visit a website and not use SSL. Or my favorite is to use FTP. Right? Everyone is shocked at how quickly you can obtain the password just by running Wireshark. But if you do that, you'll see it because you'll get your own traffic.
Yeah, that's good enough. And then you'll know for sure that is actually the password because it's your own. All right, so in the same vein, the spotlight this week is another great application that is truly a power user's application if you like to torrent apps. Noah, you know, there's a million different ways to torrent stuff under Linux. What's your preferred torrent?
Right.
You have kind of a fancy setup, don't you?
Well, what I do is I use
like
transmission with the... Right, yeah. So transmission has the ability to enable a web service, and so essentially, when I want to download a torrent, and it bothers me that the word torrent has become synonymous with illegal downloading. Yeah. Torrents are the most effective way to transfer data. Maybe not the most effective way, but a much more efficient way to transfer data from one place to another, rather than using like an HTTP download. Well, and so what I have is essentially a torrent server that is set up, and I drop the torrent link into. I go to my torrent server webpage. I drop the torrent link in there. Yeah. The torrent server downloads it on our huge connection here at the office, and then it SCPs it to my box, my file server at my house.
That's a nice setup. So, and you're using the web component of transmission to do that. I've used that before. It's it's okay.
It works.
Yeah, it's okay. When I did a little extent on KDE and was really kind of trying to replace all of my tried and true GTK applications with Qt applications or alternatives, I gave up on transmission and I switched to a program called Qbittorrent. And Qbittorrent, I was blown away with the power and functionality and feature set of this. I thought I knew BitTorrent applications. No. Not only does Qt-BitTorrent have great performance, so unlike that one like Azure or whatever it is, that Java-based one that has a lot of features, it gets crazy slow. Not a problem with Qbittorrent. It has great code. It also offers a web UI, much like Transmission does. It has fantastic filtering for RSS if you want to do RSS-based episode downloading. We make all of our shows available on BitLove with RSS. It has pre-tracker and re-announce, and which is very nice for catching files that get popular really quick. It's now been rebuilt using Qt5. The UI web code has been completely rewritten. So is the episode filtering. It also now has options to automatically hibernate and shut down the computer. Not a big feature, but one that hasn't been there. And the one of the things I really love about it here, I have it installed right here, is not so much all of its incredible features for downloading and managing your torrent downloads. That's there's a lot of really nice tools out there for doing that. Now, what I really love about Qbittorrent is its ability to create torrents, and it has such a good tool in front end. Now, I haven't used it in so long, but for example, it was one of the first Linux BitTorrent clients that supported when you create a torrent to support web seeds. That's more common now. But web seeds are what, in my opinion, make torrents really possible. And the concept of a web seed very much is you can put out a torrent file, and the torrent standard supports this. You can put a torrent file out there that says if nobody else is seeding this torrent file, then start downloading it from this HTTP location. As you download it from this HTTP location and other users come in on the swarm, you can begin seeding yourself from what you've pulled down using that seed. And then so you seed the swarm from an HTTP file. So, for example, when the first episode of the Linux Action Show comes out today over torrent, there's going to be one person that has to download that before anybody else has, right? That person will get it at the full speed of our CDN, even though they're using a torrent file. Then they'll pull down that full file, whatever their connection can take it at, and then begin seeding it to the swarm so other people can take it from there. Qbittorrent was one of the first clients under Linux to ever support this feature and to get it right. So I have a real super soft spot for this application, and it is very, very good. And even though I have a GTK-based desktop now, it still works very well for me. Have you ever tried it, Noah?
No, I haven't. But I once you added it to the show notes, I was reading into it, and I actually installed it on my machine at home. But between Friday and now, I actually haven't had a chance to. I've had nothing that I've needed to torrent. That's actually not true. I torrented one thing, but it was on my laptop at a client location. So
it's very simple. They've
but
cleaned up.
I'll be checking it out.
I'm really kind of crazy impressed with how much they've cleaned up the UI. It used to be way more complicated than this. A lot more complicated than this. So it's still got, it seems like it has a lot of the power, but a little bit easier to use too. And you know what? I bet they just did that in the transition to Qt5. They probably decided to take care of all that stuff. It's pretty nice. So two really, really great power user apps that we haven't talked about much on the show, but hopefully a little make good there on that, and you guys can go check them out. Don't forget, all of our previous picks are at jupiterbroadcasting.com/ what is it, last picks, Noah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, jupiterbroadcasting.com/last picks to get all of that. And meetup.com/jupiterbroadcasting is probably too late, but I'll just give a plug for it really quick. Tomorrow morning, Monday, May 18th, Michael Dominic is on the East Coast, and he's going to be at MS Build in New York. And he's going to do a meetup there. And you can join if you want at meetup.com/jupiterbroadcasting, or just go there for future meetups. We'll probably have one very soon. And as we do other events in different areas, we'll do meetups in those areas. But Mr. Dominic is throwing one together at the Microsoft Build Conference in New York on Monday, May 18th. If you're going to be there or just in the area and want to meet up, you can get details, meetup.com/jupiterbroadcasting, happening tomorrow morning. So super late notice, but this is kind of the way the show schedule worked out. Could be pretty cool. And then I guess I'll probably, so if he's doing that Monday morning, I'll probably talk to him just a little bit after he's done, because Coda Radio is 3 p.m. East Coast time, so I'll get a fresh report. And he's going to be keeping his eye out for all the Linuxy stuff. I've sent him in with a few things. I'll just say I sent him a secret mission. I don't want to blow it, but we'll have a full report on Coda Radio. All right, Noah, with the picks all done, let's do the news.
Hey, it's the news, and this episode is brought to you by
Ting.com. Go to last.ting.com. That'll support the Linux Action Show and give you a $25 service credit or $25 off your first device. I mentioned the service credit first now because Ting has a huge selection of GSM or CDMA devices you can bring over. They got 2 giant networks now, so there's a good chance you have a compatible device today. You can go to last.ting.com and they have a bring your own device page that'll kind of give you a good direction. But if you want a brand new device, and I don't blame you, sometimes it feels good to start fresh. Plus, when you buy a phone from Ting, it's unlocked, you own it outright, it's just done. You know, that's kind of nice. So it'll give you $25 off your first device when you go to last.ting.com. Wait, what is Ting? Well, Ting is the mobile service that pretty much all the hosts at Jupiter Broadcasting use, at least the ones that live in the U.S. It's only pay for what you use mobile. Right there. Simple and straightforward. It's $6 just for the phone line. So for me, I have 3 phone lines because that's still cheaper than like one of the traditional carriers' single line. And then you just pay for your usage, your minutes, your messages, your megabytes, and Ting just adds it all up, and that's what you pay at the end of the month. And one of the nice things about Ting is not only do they have the CDMA and GSM network for you to choose from, if you're a little technical at all, you understand there's a lot of benefits to having just that level of flexibility. Ting does it based on your account, too. So instead of me paying by device, I sort of just have a general account, and I just share that pooled minutes amongst all my devices. So if one day I'm using the Nexus 5 pretty heavily, and the next day we're using the iPhone because we want to take a good picture, well, then we don't have to really necessarily worry about charging all the minutes up on one phone and charging all the minutes up on the other phone. It's just a shared pool of minutes. And we turn on things like hotspot and tethering if we need it. And Ting has no-hold customer service, so you can call them at 1-855-TING-FTW anytime between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on the weekday. and a real human being answers the phone. And there's always 24/7 online support, which is really superb because they have a super savvy community. A lot of it's filled by listeners and viewers like you who are experimenting with things like Firefox OS or Galaxy S6s and all kinds of things on the Ting network. And Ting has a great range of devices from, $40, $50 all the way up to the highest end devices. So go to last.ting.com, check out the dashboard, try them out. You could be like Noah and just get yourself a pocket phone. You still have that pocket phone with you?
I do, and that's what I was going to add. Is not only does Ting have a wide selection of devices, and not only have they partnered with Glide, a service that will go find you the phone that you want, ship it to your house, and take care of all that middle work, so you don't have to go through something like eBay. But they'll also support if you want to bring any unlocked GSM device. So that opens up a whole range of possibilities. Now, producer Q5Sys last week was mourning the death of Palm OS, and to do that, he broke out his original Palm OS Trio, and he's going to run that for the next 2. Now, that may not be up your alley.
That's
but
awesome,
let me
though.
tell you, it's up mine because I am totally on board with Palm OS. I'd go back to it if I could. And so he's going to run that for the next 2 weeks to mourn the end of Palm OS, and that's only possible because Ting it supports any unlocked GSM device. So
it's nice.
They have no interest in stopping of using any device.
No, as long as it's unlocked and as long as it supports the right frequencies, you're probably going to be able to get it to work. Depending on the device, it's going to be varying degrees of how much help you're going to have. You might just have to buy the SIM and make it work. Like Chase did that with our buddy Chase from Unfilter. He set up some security cameras around his house and just got two Ting $9 GSM SIMs, popped them in each, and he didn't have to call support. He didn't have to do anything like that. He just got them working.
Right.
And now he's got access to them 24/7, and he's only paying anytime they need to send data. So it's a really economical solution for any automated. It's kind of like set it and forget it system, like hooked up to a Pi or something like that. It's really cool. I want to wrap it up because we always like to have an app pick, and they have a new one. Kyra's here this week with something that I've never heard of before. I don't even know what it means. Let's find out.
Is your phone not making it through the day? I'm Kyra, and this is the Ting app of the week.
Go Kyra.
Trepin Profiler identifies apps that take a toll on the power and performance of your smartphone, so you can take action. There's some very deep and advanced options you can dig into, or you can just keep it simple. Uncover top offenders on your phone using the presets on the main page.
I like this.
Tap a category and it will run in the background. Trepin Profiler will begin to work its magic and sort the apps based on their usage from greatest to least, making it easy to identify any culprits on your phone. Depending on what you discover, you may want to keep an eye on an app, disable background data syncing, or even uninstall it entirely. For power users, this app does a lot more than just what we're showing here today. If you're an Android expert, go ahead and dig in, and you'll uncover some interesting insights. Trepin Profiler is available for Android devices and includes some extra features if your phone runs on a Snapdragon processor. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit subscribe for more weekly app reviews, Ting tips, unboxings, and much more.
Last.ting.com, and that's the spelling on that's a little funny. It's TREPN Profiler. And what she was teasing there about the Qualcomm processors, Qualcomm has some really smart power management stuff built into their latest generation of CPUs, and if you have software in Android to take advantage of that, it can offer you a power savings advantage that no other CPU can touch yet, even the nice ones like in the S6, at least 1-to-1 ratio. So that definitely seems like a good app to check out if you're having some battery life issues on your Android device. TREPN. I have no idea what that means. Do you have any idea what that means? Kyra asked.
No idea.
I don't know. All right, Noah, our first story this week has me pretty upset. It has me upset because I feel like I've been taken advantage of as a consumer. It has me upset because I feel like people haven't lived up to their commitments. It has me upset because I feel like people are misled to raise funds for this company. And it has me upset because this company now has a great deal of funding, and it should be in the position out of anyone to actually deliver on their commitments. If you don't know what I'm talking about yet from the hints, I'm talking about the fact that Oculus has announced they are suspending development, at least for the time being, for Linux and the Macintosh. Oculus has said that they just don't have time to focus on it right now, and they want to get a product to market. Yeah, so sorry for us Linux fans. The Facebook-owned Oculus Rift, the headset that perhaps more than any other device has ignited public interest in virtual reality, is going to be exclusive to Windows PCs at launch. Now, they go on to say, look, it's complicated. To make the Oculus work, you have to hook it up to your HDMI port and 2 USB ports. There's some Macs that don't even have 2 USB ports. And honestly, HDMI video out is so darn hard under Linux that we just don't have time to work on it. So we're going to completely avoid it. Now, I will get into how I believe this so beautifully demonstrates the differences between a company that truly gets it like Valve and a company that always fails to miss the mark, ones that are run by Carmack. But before we get into that, actually, why don't we start with John Carmack himself, who joined Oculus not too long ago, who's had a long-time position on Linux. Here's a clip from him in 2012.
Linux is an issue that's taken a lot more currency with Valve announcing Steam for Linux.
This would be right after Valve's announcement in 2012 and Carmack responding to it up on stage for really one of the first times he said anything publicly about it.
That does change factors. It changes things a bit, but we've made 2 forays into the Linux commercial market, most recently with the Quake Live client.
Which
and
sucked.
That platform just hasn't carried its weight compared to the Mac on there. It's great that people are enthusiastic about it, but there's just not nearly as many people that are interested in paying for a game on the platform. And that just seems to be the reality.
And in fact, one of the reasons why we have gone to great lengths to point out the profits on the Humble Bundle sales is because we now have to respond to this myth that men like John Carmack have put out there for years, that Linux users won't pay for software, even though when you publicly make the sales stats available, perhaps the volume is lower. But in terms of paying for software, that happens.
Valve will probably pull a bunch more people there. I know absolutely nothing about any Valve plans for console Steambox stuff on there. I could speculate without violating anything. One thing that also speaks to the favor of Linux and potential open source things is that the integrated graphics parts are getting better and better, and they really are good enough now. Intel's latest integrated graphics parts are good. The drivers still have issues. They're still certainly not going to blow away somebody's top-of-the-line SLI system, but they are completely competent parts that are delivering pretty good performance. And one of the wonderful things is that Intel has been
I will stop there. It's faint praise right there. I think this has been a long time coming. I think this has been coming, honestly, since before Facebook. I would not be surprised if Facebook had very little to do with this, other than the bean counters also agreed it would be a good decision. I think what you see here is Oculus sees a market potential to be first to market. And they see competition coming from Samsung, they see competition coming from HTC and Valve, and they want to be the ones out there first because they think they got something really great. And John Carmack thinks he's God's gift to humanity to bring virtual reality to us all. And if they have to crack a few eggs and screw over a few original backers who backed specifically because they had Linux support, and people like me who not only backed the Kickstarter but then also purchased the second version of the development unit and then had to wait months for Linux support, even though you can screw over people like that because they want to get first to market. And then you look at companies like Valve, who are working with HTC to create a VR headset. Valve, they look at this same problem, and when they decide they wanted to make a product based on Linux, they didn't chicken shit out once they thought it was going to get hard. What they decided to do is work directly with the community and create SteamOS and improve Linux at the base level, improve things like the controller input at the kernel level so that it's improved throughout Linux, improve things like the graphics drivers, work with OEMs to fix that stuff at a fundamental level so that way they can base a long-term successful product off of a free operating system. See, that's long-term visionary thinking, and that's the difference between Valve and Oculus and John Carmack. John Carmack thinks he's a visionary, but he doesn't actually see the very, very big picture. If you go out and you make a product for a dying platform like Windows, you're going to make a very cute, adorable product, and it will get you some places. It'll probably be used in medical fields, and Facebook can probably push it very far. But if you have a product that can be integrated at the console level, that the gaming industry is behind, that people can support, that the community is behind, that could actually fundamentally change gaming forever. VR is a big deal if we don't screw it up, and the HD Vive is supposed to be quite good. Perhaps even better than the Oculus Rift. So I say, good riddance to you. You never got it right anyways. Noah, what say you?
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with this. What year is it? 2015. In 2015, let's look at some of the other projects that have similar ideas. They're funded and we're off to get development started, and you want to get people that know about the technology and that can craft ideas and write software and stuff like that. Look at things like the Raspberry Pi. Look at things like the Intel Minnow board. Look at things like that little computer we covered last week that's under $10. All of those devices are running Linux. And why is that? That is because, well, for one, the license fee, if you were to try and run Windows on a lot of these embedded devices that that kind of defeats the cost effectiveness of it. But the reality is the people that want to play with stuff, the people that want to put a headset on that may or may not work and play it with a game that may or may not work and try to understand why they're experiencing delay or problems. Those are the kind of people, they're not running Windows. They're not running Mac because those people want their Apple Care to work.
And let's break down the decision that Oculus is now making. Their primary platform for delivering their vision of the future of gaming and communications and shopping and all of this is what John Carmack has said. This is what Oculus has said. This is what Oculus presents. This is why Facebook bought them. This incredible product of the future depends on a platform that A, has a better past than it does future, but B, more importantly, the primary creator of that platform, you may have heard of them before, they're called Microsoft, is building a competing product called HoloSense and has a competing product called Kinect. They are in hostile territory. Where they're landing, their beachhead to introduce this product to the market is in hostile territory, claimed by the people that already own that land. So enjoy that. This is how short-sighted they are. And what I come back to is they've now burned the community on several times. And despite the millions of dollars they've raised, despite the billions of funding, despite the PhDs and John Carmack and the time they partnered with Valve, despite all of that, despite the fact that I have seen them at PAX demoing their product for the last 4 years in a row, despite all of that, they still have failed to get a product to the market. And now that they're getting close to getting that product to the market, they can't even deliver on what they've promised. It's so pathetic. And it so sucks that it's the Linux users that get burned every single time because honestly, they're just a bunch of neckbeards anyways. Who gives a shit?
Right. But the shame on us if we forget about it, because in 5 years, when they look back and say, you know what, they come and sit down at our booth and say, hey guys, we just wanted to give an interview because now we're interested in Linux because that's where the money is. And it looks like Microsoft wasn't a real great place to bank on. And look, we brought cupcakes. If at that point, the entire chat room erupts into, well, you're not giving Oculus enough of a chance. The only command we have over the market as consumers is just that, is to choose not to support those companies that screwed us over. So let's not forget in 3 or 4 or 5 years, let's not have short-term memory. Let's not have amnesia and say, well, a couple of years ago when they made that decision to decided to screw everyone over, that we weren't important enough, because that's what they're telling you.
Right.
If you're a Linux user, if you have Linux on your desktop, they're saying you don't matter. They don't care about you, and they could care less if you could use their product. So remember that in 5 years when they want to come back.
I'm actually
it's going to happen.
I'm kind of glad that they've done this. I'm glad that they didn't sort of keep stringing Linux users along because, they could have gotten to a really strong market position and then pulled the rug out. At least now they've showed their true colors when they're still infantile and they're impotent and haven't delivered anything. So now we actually know, okay, this, even though they've really started the conversation here, they're actually a company that's packed with a bunch of old bureaucrats that think in the 90s and the 80s, and they don't actually know the new modern world that's happened post, 2000 and something. And so maybe it's a good thing that we're not putting them in this position of being responsible for the future of interacting with our computing platforms. Maybe that's a good thing, because they obviously aren't equipped to handle it anyways. So now that they've sort of played their cards before they've gotten to a position of power, we as consumers can instead choose to invest our things in like HTC Vive, open source products, even Google Cardboard for all I care. And if you wonder why I'm so passionate, I've tried it. Okay, I've tried the first version of Oculus. I've tried the second version of Oculus. And to me, I think there's 3 or 4 technologies I've used in my life where the moment I tried it, I went from, I don't get this, to, oh my God, this is going to change everyone's life.
Yeah.
And I don't often make that claim about technology. And when I put that Oculus headset on and I was transported to a raft in the middle of the ocean, and I could look around and walk around, and it was connected to my Linux box, I had a moment. And I said, I would really love to see this take off, and I would be willing, in exchange for that, to even let Facebook be the people that bring it to us. It is that important of a technology. And now I'm glad they've played this hand, because now I realize that was a mistake, and I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. So now we know.
As long as we users aren't stupid, they can only play that card once.
Right.
And now they've burned us, and as long as we stick by that. But you know what? Who wants a headset that I can't use? I mean, if a headset comes to market that is truly open and so, for example, maybe manufactured by HTC that worked with Valve, I can use that headset on my Steambox, I can use that headset on my laptop, I can use that headset on my gaming rig downstairs. Yeah. Why would I want the Oculus that only works on one device? That doesn't even make sense.
The more you know.
So,
the more you know.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Obviously, it's disappointing to see Linux users get milked and then dumped. But you know what?
We're used to it.
That's the last company that John Carmack's at that gets my money. All right, so let's talk about vulnerabilities that have cropped up in Linux. Let's start with the big one this week, Venom. If you've watched TechSnap, we did a major analysis of Venom. It's totally it's Alan at his best. So we've been talking about Venom this week. It's not one of these that's probably going to affect a lot of our listeners. It's a vulnerability in virtualizers like QEMU, Xen, KVM, and VirtualBox. And it's a vulnerability in the floppy disk controller code. And even if you have the floppy disk controller turned off on your virtual machine, it turns out an attacker, if they could get access to your machine, so they have to get access to your machine. But if they get access to your machine, they can cause essentially like a buffer underrun or overflow or whatever the hell it is in the floppy controller code. Then they can compromise the virtual machine and then spread to all of the other virtual machines on the host. So it's a pretty significant flaw for those people that have large KVM, Xen, QEMU, or VirtualBox installations. It's nasty because it allows you to break out of the virtual machine. So that's Venom. It's got itself a logo. It's super scary. Everybody's talking about it. Big panic. The other thing that came out this week is, I guess, a couple of remote packet of death vulnerabilities. And not just a couple, but 4. Now, the packet of death vulnerabilities are a little scary because that means it really just takes a network packet to screw your machine up. Attackers could send specifically crafted packets to a machine using OZWPAN kernel driver over the network and cause some issues. Don Field explained, this is the guy that found it, in a public announcement that the OZWPAN driver, which I guess is probably a network, I'm guessing a wireless network driver, accepts network packets, parses them, and then converts them into various USB functionality. There are numerous security vulnerabilities in handling of these packets. So you can send USB commands by simply sending network packets to this network card. Now you got to have this network card, but in the network packet, you could put USB commands in that thing, and one of them, like divide by 0, causes all kinds of issues. And so the proof of concept code has already been published for making these remote packets of death a possibility. You probably have to be on the LAN to fully take advantage of it. These new driver vulnerabilities can be found on the mailing list post that we'll have linked in the show notes. This kind of stuff's great. No, you got in 1 week you've got Venom, and now you've got remote packets of death. It's just been a hard week for security.
So I'm a little more concerned about Venom than I am this kernel thing, and the reason is because the way I understand it is this kernel problem actually exists in the wireless LAN driver. Is that right?
For the Venom issue? No,
for the OZPAN.
Oh, yeah, for the OZ. It's just you have to have that wireless card. So it's much more, whereas Venom is pretty much anybody that has this virtualizer.
And the reality is where I would highly be concerned about security, or where I would really care, is
data centers
the production machines, and all those are hardwired. And so I guess
this is more going to affect laptops. So we have the Venom affects servers. These random different types of 4-packet attacks affect laptops mostly, and things like that. So we have 2 different types of, but both of them are very low level, happening way down. And what's interesting about Venom is the reason why Venom affects QEMU, Xen, KVM, and VirtualBox is because they wrote the code like a decade ago for QEMU. And then everybody, because it's open source, has just been copying and pasting that floppy controller code to all the different open source virtualizers. So they all have the same problem. And this is a case where VMware, Hyper-V, Beehive, they don't have this problem. It's a little embarrassing, a little bit. So like Heartbleed and Venom are specifically just the open source guys. So it's a little
yeah, but I mean, so the flip side of that is, at least when a vulnerability comes to light, we fix it. We don't publish it to a list to the government and let them exploit it, right? At least something is going to get done about it.
Yeah.
So does it suck? Yeah, but is it going to get fixed? Yes.
Here's what I worry about.
The other side of it too is we only fix it once, and then we replicate those changes to everything along.
That's you being rational, and that's adorable. What I worry about is the irrational public. You hear these open source problems over and over again, and they're getting branded with logos. I just get a little worried. I know I shouldn't, but I put it out there. You know what makes me feel better? A brand new Ubuntu phone. I don't know how you say this one. Miez? Have we ever gotten the pronunciation right for this?
No, never.
Well, we've talked about it. It's the MX4 Ubuntu edition. It's gone on sale in China this weekend. It's a 5.2-inch smartphone powered by an 8-core MediaTek 2 gigahertz processor, 2 gigabytes of RAM. At least I think it's 2 gigahertz processor, and 16 gigabytes of storage, which means you'll probably have between 5 and 8 gigabytes, I think, to play with. I'm not quite sure. So it's going to be sold in Europe soon. China right now for developers. Thoughts?
So I am interested to see where Ubuntu phone takes off. As you know, as I've said numerous times, I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the feedback. I am unhappy with where the mobile platform is and has been for quite some time. It doesn't suit me, and I'm hoping that I can at least alleviate some of those concerns with Ubuntu Touch. So far, I haven't seen it. So far, it's not for me. It seems like I feel like every time I sit down to use it, I feel like I'm just using a less capable Android device. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a factor, that it's not right for some people.
Right.
I just don't think right now it's scratching an itch that I have.
It's funny you say that, because when I saw this one on sale, and it's not available in the U.S., it's not even available in Europe yet. It'll be, I guess, a separate device is coming to the U.S. and not this one. I thought it was going to be this one eventually making it to the U.S., but it won't be. When I saw this, though, and I thought maybe this was going to be the one that makes it here, I thought, okay, if this comes in like June, am I going to buy it? Am I ready to spend money on this? And, you know, the thing is, Noah, is I'm not sure I am. And I really am so happy this project exists. Really, I'm really glad there's alternatives to Android. I don't...
Yeah, because it drives everything else to be better.
I just don't know if I see the need just yet. I'm waiting to find a pretty compelling package. Maybe a pretty good phone hardware, and maybe the software's gotten a few revs. So I'm totally still willing to accept it. But when the question came up today, am I ready to buy it today? I think my answer was no. It's not for me yet still, even though I'm really excited about it.
Well, I guess here's my thought, and please nobody say compile it from source. That just is not an acceptable answer to me on my phone. What can I run Telegram on this? Am I going to be able to?
Yes.
Is there a Telegram app?
There is a Telegram app.
All right. Is there a Spotify app?
No, I don't think so. But then maybe there's a Spotify web player, right?
Yeah, I guess. But at that point, then what's the advantage of this over like the Firefox phone? If I wanted to run everything in a web browser, that's what Firefox OS is for, and it does it very well, in fact. So, and I can buy it for $39, and it runs very well for $39. So I have such a hard time. I want to be excited about the Ubuntu phone. I want an Ubuntu phone because I want to use actual Linux on my phone. And then
I think what you're responding to, I think you're feeling guilty, but this phone, there's a reason why they're selling it in China to developers. That's the market. It's not for you, right? It's not. It's literally, like, it's not for you and I. But look at
that's fine. I can accept that.
I know. You know what it is? You and I want it to be for us. We want to be excited by it.
Right.
And not only do we want it to be for us, but we want to be like, you know, that Ubuntu desktop's been kind of neglected, but it's been totally worth it because now we have this awesome phone. And finally, it's been totally worth it. And it's just not there yet for us. It's not worth it for us. There's no payoff.
That's part of it.
For us.
That's part of it. And the other thing is I walk around in a constant state, and it comes out of my mouth. I don't even think about it. It happens so often where I say something along the lines of, I'm sick of Android. I wish I could just get Linux on a phone. And then the very next comment is followed with somebody saying, well, they have Ubuntu for the phone. Why don't you get Ubuntu on the phone? And so I want that to be the answer to what I'm looking for. And like I said, I think we're going to get into the feedback, but I've kind of gone a different direction. I think I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah. And I would love if anybody out there picks one of these up, one of these MX4 MyZoos. I would love to get your take on it because it's not available to us yet, and it looks like a pretty decent phone. So this is where the rubber starts to meet the road for me with Ubuntu Touch. I'm not super compelled when it's like on the Nexus 4 or it's on the BQ phone. That'd have been great in a couple of years ago, but with the MX4, seems like a pretty legit phone with a pretty good screen, pretty good processor. It's a MediaTek, but they've customized it a bit. So now you're actually starting to get almost compelling there, and that's where maybe people will really start to make something out of it. I wanted to talk about something, Noah, that I have not had a chance to play with it yet, so I'm a little apprehensive to cover it, but I'm so excited by the potential that I wanted to kind of put it out there and maybe see if anybody in the audience is using Document Server 3.0, just put out by OnlyOffice. They've made it open source now. A couple of interesting things about this. This is like a Google Docs competitor. It has a server component that's available for Linux. You deploy it on your Linux server using a Docker container. So they're distributing their software via Docker, which is pretty interesting. And it is a server component that offers web-based with a modern flat UI, spreadsheets, text, presentation editors. It supports OpenXML. It supports DocX, XLS, PPTX, and you can do collaborative editing in real time. And they've just made it available for free under Linux via a Docker container at onlyoffice.org. I do not know much about this, but I am fascinated that they're distributing it via Docker as an image that you get from the Docker Hub. I think that's fascinating as a way to deploy software. Here it is right here. And it looks like it's had 1,338 deployments, and it's only been available for a couple of days, so it's picking up. But if anybody out there has tried this, and this could maybe help us replace Google Docs, I mean, I'm just thinking I could put this on a droplet, I could put Docker on a droplet, and I could throw this on there and say goodbye to Google Docs and be a totally happy camper. But I just don't know if it's legit or I've never even heard of OnlyOffice before. So have you ever? Are you looking at Office stuff all the time? Have you heard of them?
I do, and this is new on my radar. But the reality is, and I found this through trial and error, is you could have 1,000 people write in next week and say it's the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah.
The only real way you're going to know
Just try it.
is if you install it, you try it, and then it either works or it doesn't work for you.
It almost
That's kind
looks
of the sad
too good to
reality
be
of
true.
It.
It really does. The UI is like, it's kind of modern looking for Word. Like, it kind of looks like it's inspired by the newer versions of Office, but without going over the top. So it's got kind of the ribbon style without it, but it's still a toolbar. It's like if the ribbon never went fully ribbon and stayed a toolbar.
All right.
It's nice.
Yeah, if they want to make it look like a ribbon, as long as I have a file menu and a freaking print button. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean.
menus.
I know what you mean. So anyways, that's pretty cool, and it's very nice that they just made it free and available for Linux. Could be a great way to get free Office for a LAN or for a small business or just a home solution. And it says full compatibility with Microsoft and OpenOffice. Could be cool. It's onlyoffice.org if you'd like to check that out. But Noah, that's all the news for this week. The state of emulation on Linux is strong. Maybe that's overcompensation, but there is an incredible amount of selection. We're not really going to get so much into the games. I mean, we will talk about some games today too, but I'd like to talk about some of the amazing creations the open source community has made around this. It really makes it a premier platform and might just be the perfect thing to get somebody to switch. Before we do that, though, I'd like to talk about the perfect thing to have them switch to, and that's our segment sponsor, System 76, creators of machines born to run Linux, truly trouble-free Linux computers. That way, you get to have a great time playing with Linux, and you don't have to fight with your hardware. They got the new Meerkat over there that is slick. We have that in studio. We're going to be talking about that very soon. Of course, they have a great range of laptops to choose from based on the latest and greatest technology. And the truly great thing about buying a System 76 rig is, for example, the computer you're watching this screen on right now, the one that I'm sitting here scrolling this screen on, is a Bonobo that is coming on its 2 or maybe even 3rd year now, possibly. And I still find it to be an incredibly performant machine that is absolutely trouble-free. System 76 really builds these machines to last a long time with the intention of you running Linux. And you can go check them out right now, laptops, desktops, and even servers at system76.com. Go get yourself the perfect Linux computer and then tell them the Linux Action Show sent you. Noah and I are long-time customers of system76.com. Thanks, System 76.
Yeah, when I was at Scale, I had the wonderful opportunity to shake hands with some of the people at System 76. And it was kind of amusing because, I was telling him, I said, I really like System 76. I purchased a lot of machines. And I don't think he really took me seriously until he opened up some sort of account thing and he was looking and goes, "What's your name?" He types it in. He goes, "Wow, you do order a lot of computers." I'm like, yeah, because you know what? When I need to get something done and I need it to work on Linux, that's just kind of the natural play. I mean, who else is making machines that run natively on Linux?
Yeah. Yeah, and
support.
And the great part is they have worked with the Linux community for so long now that it's sort of like the difference between Valve and Oculus. System 76 truly gets it. They're in the trenches. Mm-hmm. They're working down at the code level. They're in with the Ubuntu community, and it really makes a difference. It that closes that gap. So I wanted to talk about why we decided to talk about emulation gaming under Linux today. Even though Noah's not a huge gamer, something truly significant happened this week that really busted this topic into the forefront. A big project that you've heard of undoubtedly and probably already thought was free software actually changed its license this week to go truly open source and free. MAME is going open source to help become a learning tool for developers. The folks who maintain MAME, that's the Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator, are aiming to make the project completely open source in order to expand both its pool of supporters and help developers and historians look at games. So MAME is really truly seen as the premier emulator for arcade games, and the volunteers who have done it have really just done an amazing job of giving us an opportunity to preserve some true history and true art in the gaming industry. While MAME's code has always been freely available, the gotcha is there's limitations on what you can use it for, and some big ones like commercial usage and things like that. That it was essentially public code, but not free code. And so this is now where it's changing. MAME's engineer says that the license was put in place to deter misuse of MAME in illegal ways. But it also kept museums that charge entry fees from using MAME in their exhibits, or legal license owners from using MAME to release old games. This is a really huge deal, and there's something else we're going to pair this with towards the end of the segment that's also free and totally legal, that's really totally going to unleash all this for you guys. So let's jump in right here. And Noah, I threw this in here this morning, so I don't know if you had a chance to see this yet, because it just went live 6 hours ago. So perfect timing. Devin over at Linux.org did a superb roundup of the best game emulators for Linux. And of course, he starts with MAME, the classic. He talks about Dolphin and Stella, and some great ones like ZNES and SNEX 9X for Super Nintendo emulation. A whole bunch that we're going to get into today. So there is more resources in the show notes that I encourage you to check out. And a nice plug here for Devin, because I just was really, it's like, wow, the timing on that write-up was great. So that was, MAME's announcement was the number one reason we wanted to talk about this today. The number two thing, and this is I think what maybe pushed you over the edge, Noah, is I was like, well, there's this new DIY retro emulation console called like Laka or something, and it lets you turn a device into a full-fledged arcade. And you're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you could check it out. It's at laka.tv if you want to look at it. And you're like, hold on, this is a big deal. And you had a couple of ideas on how to take advantage of this. So why don't you share that?
Yeah, so there's a couple different things. So one is the thing that blew me away was the ability that I can use this as an appliance-like device. So I can put this onto a Raspberry Pi and turn it into like a game console. Now my brother-in-law, I had my sister-in-law switch to Linux, and she was using Linux for like 3-4 years, and then she fell back off Linux, not because she wasn't happy with it or because it wasn't doing something for her, but because when she got married, my now brother-in-law, he knew Windows, so she goes, well, he's just around and he's here to help me. So I then said, so immediately, not missing a beat, I said, well, how do I get you to switch to Linux? And he goes, well, here's the things I'm interested in. One of the things that he was interested in was emulation gaming for like the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. And so I gave him a Raspberry Pi, and he put the software on here to get, so it actually acts like that is his Nintendo. Yeah. So I'm hoping within a couple weeks, if that works out, and he's like, yeah, this Linux thing is really cool, maybe we can switch them both back to Linux.
So this here, and I know you actually wanted to, if you had anything you wanted to show, I'm going to talk a little bit about Laka here. This is actually pretty cool. It's built on top of two things that the audience is probably familiar with. One is OpenELEC. We've talked about that kind of recently on the show, and the other is RetroArch emulator. Laka is able to emulate a large range of hardware. So not only will it do the emulation of the software, but it'll emulate the hardware. It's free, so that's one thing. And it gives you a full screen UI to take advantage of the interface. You can see here on the demo, he's able to switch between the console games, Game Boys, and things like that. Now, I wasn't able to show it because it requires a resolution change, but it's pretty slick. And you can download an image for it, but you can also get it ready baked for a lot of different hardwares. So like if I go here, you can say, get it. Oh, I guess I didn't even realize they made it available for Windows. But you say, go get it for Linux. They have images ready to go for the Raspberry Pi, the Qbox i, the Hummingbird, the Odroid, the Raspberry Pi 2, the Banana Pi, the Qe board, and the Qbittorrent. I've got a Qbox i, and you just get this image and put it on an SD card. It's really kind of neat. And so that's one thing to check out, is if you want to just take over a device like a Raspberry Pi or something you have hooked up to your TV and just have a whole retro arcade that you just drop the ROMs on and it's ready to go and it's super approachable by anybody, check out laka.tv. It's kind of new. It's something you might not have had a chance to look at, and we've been really impressed by it. And it's great, like Noah said, on the Pi. Mm-hmm. I have something else that I came across last night when I was digging around for, I'm trying to rectify something. There's a topic come up recently about like a unified game store that unifies Steam and good old games and all this other stuff. And when I heard that, I remember thinking, I think there's already a project out there that does this. Plus, I need something that also helps me keep track of my Humble Bundle games and any things I've downloaded directly from developers, from their websites, or open source games that aren't necessarily my repo. So I've downloaded the binary, like Xonotic. I usually just go download Xonotic directly from the website. I don't install it from the repo. And I also have about 30 emulated games that I play, Super Nintendo, Sega games, and Nintendo 64 games that I loosely like to keep track of. And I can't put those into Steam necessarily because they're just ROM files. So there's an open source gaming platform project out there called Lutris, Lutris, and it allows you to gather and manage, install, configure, and launch your games from any source in a single interface. And it's GTK based. It lets you manage your Linux games, Wine games, emulated console games, and browser-based games from one UI. You can launch Steam and Desura games from it. It's community written. So, for example, this is actually a really neat feature I was talking about on the pre-show. They have a games library on their website, and I can go in here and I can focus specifically just on Linux games. And when I click on one of these, it will download an installer script, launch Lutris, download this game, and install it for me. Now, not every game has an installer. So like Aliens vs. Predator doesn't have an installer available for Linux. So see, here's the three options. I can do the Steam Windows version, I can do the good old games Wine version, or the Linux native version. And I can click on install. It then asks if I want to launch Lutris. It fires up Lutris and says, actually, there's not an install script for this game. See, I knew that was going to happen because I tried this before the show. This, though, is a really cool error message. If you're watching the video version, read this error message. It says, unable to install game. No installer is available for this game. Here is your three options. Exit. All right, I'm just going to bail. Configure it manually, as in like give it the URL because you know what it is because you're not a dumbass, or write the installer. If you click write the installer, it takes you to their website and you can become the author of the Linux install script. Now, isn't that genius? What a great way to involve your community directly. On the error message itself, you want to fix this problem? Here's the button. That is genius. I think that is super slick. So I wanted to show that to you guys because if you're ever going to have a failure, that, talk about now. Let's try for the Awesome, which is a pretty fun falling game if you've never tried it. And they have the Steam version, this would launch Steam and install the script, and then it would add it to Lutris, which is pretty cool. So let me keep showing you Lutris because it's a pretty neat game library. So this is my Lutris library right here. I have 5 games installed right now. I've opted to create an account, so I sync my game titles with the Lutris service and server. I have all different types of games here. I have native Linux games like Bit Trip Runner and Gratuitous Space Battle that I downloaded from the Humble Bundle. I have Star Trek The 25th Anniversary, which is a DOSBox game, which will launch the game inside DOSBox, which I downloaded directly from GOG.com. And I'd like to show this to you, for example. This gives you some nice advantages. Like when I'm configuring a DOSBox game, I can go here to System Options, and I can make sure that it doesn't forcibly mode change my resolution. So instead of making my screen go 640 by 480, I can say, you know what, keep my screen 1920 by 1080 when you launch this DOSBox environment. There's other game time options and flags you can throw to it. You'll notice, too, that Lutris also tries to go out and get the cover art for the game. So here's Super Mario World. That's obviously a Super Nintendo emulated title. It went out and downloaded the Super Mario World cover art for me for that game. And see, I just go into here. And when I configure this installer, I say, what type of run environment does this game need? And right now I have Linux native, a Steam game, a browser-based game. It also keeps track of your browser-based game, or an SNEX runtime Super Nintendo game. Now, take a look at this, Noah. I know you have to see this a little bit on delay, but this is really super cool. I can go in here and I can say Manage Runners, and Lutris will bring up a list of all of the different runtime environments that I can manage through Lutris. So Linux, Steam, browser, Desura, Wine games. So, for example, right now I don't have native DOSBox support installed. So here's the DOSBox runtime. I just click Install DOSBox, and now I have the ability to run all DOSBox games through Lutris. Same thing for all of the emulators. Here's MAME support. I click one button. I have MAME support. What's your favorite Super Nintendo emulator? I'm sorry, N64 emulator?
N64, yeah. So
because this also has this. So watch this before you say it. I'm just gonna before you say it. Let's say I didn't know what it was. Okay, let's just pretend like I didn't know what it was. Noah, one button install on Lutris. Okay, now you can reveal what it is, and we'll move to that. I'm just saying, it's really cool. It's really cool.
It's Muppet 64, which I'll go into in a little bit, but I want to give you a chance. Okay, so essentially, so a lot of you know I'm not really a gamer. I support Steam to the extent that they run on Linux, and so I want to give them money so that they continue to support Linux. I could care less if I actually ever get anything for that. Might as well just be a donation. What I do have a soft spot in my heart for is the Nintendo 64.
Yeah.
And so specifically, GoldenEye on the Nintendo 64, I have wasted hours of my life in front of that, and it seems to have no end. And now I have managed to get my son interested in it, and so we continue to play. And actually, over Christmas, he wanted to play, and I had an N64 that I'd had around for a while, and then when it broke, I bought one off of eBay, and I started to think, I bet I could do this on Linux, and if you can do something on Linux, why not, right?
So
I went out.
I was going to ask you, were you actually able to hook up like a N64 controller to your Linux rig?
Oh yeah, we're getting to that.
Oh, okay.
So the software I used was Muppet 64, and I was able to get the ROMs, put them into Muppet 64, and we were able to play the games. Now, it might surprise you to learn that one of the most effective and easy game controllers you can use on Linux is actually the Xbox 360 controller. It works natively right out of the box. You plug it right in, it just works.
Yep.
So my son and I were using that, and that was fine for a couple weeks. And then I decided I wanted to use my actual N64 controller. Now, if you know much about those, about the antiquated controllers, the joysticks in the N64 basically like little rubber bands inside, and they would wear out, and so they would get really loose, and so you couldn't use them. So the first step was to purchase an N64 controller, and then I had to rebuild the joystick, which
did you
which took
eBay
a little
that
bit
thing?
of work, but, I did eBay that thing. So I bought an N64 controller,
Nice.
and I went through and pulled the joystick module out. Put a whole new system in there so that the joystick is nice and snappy, and then I had a good N64 controller. Now that presented me with a problem because I had to get this proprietary N64 connector into my Linux-based computer, and so for that, I bought this thing off of Amazon for like $15, and it again is natively out-of-the-box compatible with Linux. Linux just sees it as a joystick controller.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can see that.
It looks like
but
two
it has
N64 ports on the end there.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice,
And then the other end is USB.
Cool.
So that plugs into my Linux box, and then I can get controllers 1 and 2. Now that works natively with Linux, and Muppet 64 is smart enough to know that this is an N64 controller, so it automatically grabs or automatically sets up the entire key map for me.
Oh, dude, it'd be kind of handy if you had a link for that in the show notes if you can dig it up in your.
Yep. I have links for both of those that we'll throw in there.
Can I actually? If I know you, did you want to switch over? Because I wanted to show something here in Lutris real quick while you do that. So now I added the N64 runtime that Noah likes, which is Moopin 64 Plus. And so now, if I had a ROM for Nintendo 64, and I think Noah could probably hook me up, I can go right into Lutris, and now it just has native ability to support, run, and manage Nintendo 64 games right in this one central UI. So the reason why I want to show this to you is you have things like MAME and Laka, which are like full screen or full systems. You know, there's a lot of different takes on MAME. There's a lot of ways that people, you can launch a different ROM. The thing I really like about Lutris is it's just a straight-up desktop application where I do 95% of my gaming. It's not a full-screen take-over-your desktop kind of thing. And I feel like it brings my Humble Bundle games, my Desura games, my Steam games, and just my locally downloaded games into one spot. And now, the thing I really like is all of my ROMs into one spot. So it's Lutris. And I think it's one of my favorite finds, and I was doing some digging last night when I was looking into a unifying app store, and it's lutris.net, lutris.net, and they have a lot of cool things coming. In fact, the current support is one thing, but I grabbed in the show notes a couple of things that they're working on that I think you guys would probably be pretty interested in. So things that they're going to build in is native Humble Bundle support and native GOG support right into the application. Mass imports of ROMs will be coming soon. Game save management, which it would be very impressed to see how they plan to do that. Joystick configuration GUI, which is very badly needed under Linux. And archiving your installations to external drives. So if you need to get that game off your drive, but you don't want to lose it and things like that, or have to re-download it, they're going to have built into the game, or built into Lutris, the ability to automatically archive that installation off to a removable storage device, which on an SSD storage is going to be extremely nice. All right, Noah, what do you have going on over here? Are you?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think you just lost your co-host.
Are you playing Counter? What is that? Counter-Strike? What is it?
I'm done. This is GoldenEye, man.
Oh,
Come
GoldenEye,
on.
yes! Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I'm playing this on, not only am I playing this on Linux, but I'm playing this with a native N64 controller and on a Linux box. And the great thing about it is total cost to me to do this, assuming I already had the computer, total cost to do this is like $50.
Yeah.
Because you can buy the controllers for dirt cheap,
Yeah.
and then you can buy the components to rebuild the joystick for like, $12, and then that little controller thing, the USB controller, is like $30.
Man, I can't believe I'm watching you play GoldenEye from Grand Forks right now over the internet. But this is seriously
welcome to 2015.
This is one of the greatest games. Now, the way the crop is, people can't actually see that you are on an Ubuntu desktop, but he is on the Ubuntu desktop.
Wow.
It's just cropped in a little bit, but you could minimize. Or there you go. You're still a little crop. Yeah, there you go. See, look, it really is, ladies and gentlemen. He's on N64 now. Not that surprising. It's not that shocking, but what is surprising is how good of a game you can get, and how good all these emulators have gotten. Like
it feels like N60. It feels native N64, no doubt about it. I mean, there's nothing. If I hooked this up to a TV and handed you the controller, there's absolutely nothing. And believe me, I have the hour time to be able to say this with authority. There is nothing that will stop me from knowing that I was actually on a computer.
Yeah, and so
great.
With Lutris or not, you're just running this directly from the N64 emulator. You don't have any management software around it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is just I literally all I've did, and you can actually see it here in the terminal. I literally ran Muppin and then the GoldenEye ROM.
I like
that. And then it starts up and I can play my game. It's great.
Okay,
I can kill hours like this.
I got one more for you. The Noah's is really the most straightforward. You just launch from the terminal and you're good to go. There's one more that you may have heard about. It's been around for years. And it's gotten a little more active in just the last couple of weeks. So, the timing of this segment is kind of crazy because all of a sudden there's a lot of momentum around this stuff. Have you ever heard of a project called Gnome Arcade? Or Gnome Video Arcade. And it's actually under some renovation right now as we do this episode. But when you launch it, it's a very, very, very straightforward arcade front end. And in fact, to make life easy on you, they go out and automatically discover some free legal-to-use ROMs like Pong and Breakout right here in Gnome Arcade. And you can, of course, add your own. And it's a very, very simple front end. And look for some interesting developments coming to it very soon. Much like Gnome Music kind of got a makeover and Gnome Photos kind of became a thing. Expect Gnome Video Arcade to kind of go that direction soon. And so it's worth keeping an eye on. All right, Noah. There's one thing we've kind of skated around. There's one issue, one elephant in the room. Getting all of these games legally. All these ROMs, all this stuff. There is a way.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's very, I've been learning a lot in researching this. Archive.org, and I'm not a lawyer, so I really don't know if I'm getting this right, but Archive.org appears to have been granted some sort of DMCA exception because they're a library or something. And so Archive.org has let me see here. Look, if you go show all, it's something like, 42.8 gigabytes of ROMs available to download, absolutely legal and free. And some software like Lutris that I talked about is actually actively working to integrate that archive.org ROM archive into the software. It's not done yet because it's so huge, and it's just up on archive.org as a zip file. So this is it's a huge pack, and they're actually completely legal for you to download. No trickery, no torrent sites from archive.org. You can do it over torrent or an HTTP download if you want to abuse them like that. And so this is a great way. I don't know what all games are in there because I have not finished downloading a 42 gigabyte file because I started it earlier today. But at probably the end of the day today, I'll have a pretty good idea of what's in there, and then you can load it into an arcade emulator. So you've got a lot of really awesome software front ends to manage all of it, and then it's just a matter of finding sort of what fits your needs. You can go from something like there's MAME arcade cabinets all the way to something like Laka, where you could take over a Raspberry Pi or a NUC, to something like Lutris, where it's just a front end application, to something like what Noah does, where he's just running the command right off the command line. Either way, it's a lot of really good stuff, and we'd love to hear what you guys do. Go over to linuxactionshow.reddit.com. Tips for ROMs, what you do to manage all of it, or what's worked for you, or maybe if you've been able to integrate it into your XBMC setup. All of that, I'd love to hear. linuxactionshow.reddit.com. But that's the Linux Action Show's look at the best in emulation gaming under Linux. And that brings us to the end of this week's broadcast, but we do have some feedback to follow up on and a little gadgetry to talk about and a couple other points I wanted to mention. Project Ascension is something we've talked about before. That is a sort of unifying app store that wants to bring all these different app stores together. So Project Ascension is probably worth checking out too. Lutris is what I'll be sticking with for now. And Noah, we had a couple of emails to get to. We also had a gadget that you've kind of teased a little bit on and off. You teased it a lot during Linux Fest, during the live stream. So people who watched our live stream coverage might have a hint of this new gadget you came across that you say is revolutionizing your workflow.
Yeah. Yeah, so what I bought is a long time ago, I wanted, when they first came out, I actually wanted one. I wanted to purchase a UMPC, but at that time I didn't really have a whole lot of money. And by the time I got to a place in life where I was making enough money to purchase one, they stopped making them. And so I've been scouring eBay for the last couple months to look to see if there was one that I thought would be, a little bit better suited for my needs than others. And I came across the Sony Vaio. It's the P series, and essentially what this is a tiny little box. I'm going to step away from the microphone so I can put it on the camera, but essentially this is a tiny little box that is running Linux.
Yeah, Sony, and you've probably seen them. They seem like they're impossibly small. And that's a full computer. What is that on there? Is that Mate? It looks like it's got Ubuntu Mate on there. It's got a full QWERTY keyboard and the little nipple mouse in the middle. It doesn't have a trackpad or anything. There's not even room for a trackpad. It's almost the size of a huge phone.
Yeah, exactly. So it fits in my back pocket, and I have full-blown desktop Linux on here. I have Telegram, I have Thunderbird, I have Firefox. It's one of those things where everyone wants to find a different mobile platform that will work for them. And honestly, what I'm finding is that this right here. I was in Walmart the other night. We were in this impossibly long line, and I was standing there. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I know. I'm going to get some work done. So I pull my little laptop out of my pocket and set it on the grocery cart. And I'm sitting there filling out progress reports for a couple companies inside of the Walmart line on my laptop. There's no way I would do that on my phone. I cannot peck out long emails on my phone. I can, however, touch type them on this keyboard.
Keyboard's big enough for that?
It is. It takes a little bit of work, but yes, I can touch type on it. I can compose an email. The only downside I found is the video playback is basically non-existent, and I attribute that mostly to the fact that it's a 2010 era Atom processor.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it has the power to do it. But as far as like getting tasks done, I can open up. I carry all my files on an encrypted Lux USB stick, and I can open those files. And the thing is, I feel like every time I try to go to Android, I make all these little compromises to make Android a platform that works for me. I have to live without a mouse, which I really like having. I don't like pinching in to make a link bigger, and then clicking on the link, and then pinching it out to make it zoom out, and then
read the whole
go back
thing.
to the. I don't want to do all that. And the other thing is too is I have my banking site. They have a mobile app, but there are certain things that you can't do from the mobile app that you need the desktop site. Well, if I open it in the web browser, it loads the stupid mobile site, which still is handicapped, and I can't do half the things I want to do. And I get so sick. Facebook, for example, you cannot see how many friends you have in at least that I can find a simple way. You cannot see how many friends you have in the little app. Somebody was asking, they said, well, we were having a discussion. I said, well, here, and I open it up. Can't find that in the mobile app. I can, however, find that in the desktop page on a desktop operating system.
So I've got two critical questions for you, Noah. Number one, how well does Linux run on it?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. I plug the USB stick in, I let it finish installing, and everything works. Sound works, suspend works, Wi-Fi
what
works,
could we
Bluetooth
expect
works.
reasonably battery-wise?
It's a little slim. I'm getting maybe 4 hours out of it, and then I've got to recharge. I've kind of come to live with that, though, from the perspective of I'm constantly plugging my phone in the car and everywhere I stop. So I guess I'm okay with having to charge it every so often. That's all right. And it's not going to replace my laptop. It's simply going to be a companion to my laptop.
So it's an Atom-powered machine, and all in, how much you got it off eBay? How much did you spend?
$300.
So it's cheaper than a tablet. It's probably more functional for you than a tablet.
For me,
battery life isn't as good. Video playback isn't as good. But if you don't need those things as your primary uses, you need something to get work done. Terminal, SSH, web browser stuff.
Exactly. And, so you have been with me when you're like, I know you've been there, but I take my laptop with me everywhere. And
we went out to dinner, and you bring we go out to dinner.
Right.
We go out to a team, like for the first time the entire crew's ever been together. We're sitting down for dinner, and Noah's over at his end of the table working on his laptop.
I had to get graphics done for Linux OS Northwest the next day.
Yeah, I know.
But but like everywhere. Like we'll stop at a 7-Eleven, and Chris will be like, "Hey, let's run in here." I'm like, "All right," and grab your bag. You're really gonna bring that? We're just getting Doritos and Coke. I'm like, "Yeah, well, better be safe than
And
sorry."
to be clear,
Take my laptop with me.
Noah has fully tried out Chromebooks like the C720, the Pixel. This is better because it's smaller.
Yeah, you name it. And in fact, in tablets too. Everyone told me if I bought the what was the newest Nexus? The Nexus 9. If you buy the Nexus 9 for $500 and some, it will change the way that you look at tablets, and it will totally. No, it doesn't. It is still Android, and it still does not let me get the work I want to get done. This thing does.
That's cool.
So I'm totally convinced.
That's Noah's gear tip of the week right there. Mm-hmm. That deserves a ding. All right, Andrew R. writes in with our first email of the week. Steam on Ubuntu 15.04 doesn't work, he says. I've just switched my computer from Ubuntu 15.04 to Xubuntu 15.04 because of some issues that I was having with mainstream Ubuntu and found that I really like it better than the default Unity desktop environment. Unfortunately, I am having a deal-breaker issue with the distro. Steam just won't launch. I recognize that having this same issue with Arch Linux, this actually wasn't the reason I switched, but, and I know from Arch that I could just not find a way to fix the issue. I looked around and around and around and I couldn't find the solution. I think it must be the driver's issue or something that's causing this. Have you experienced anything similar? Is there anything I can do to make it work? I'm on Ubuntu 15.04, 64-bit. Steam runtime environment is enabled. However, libgl-air no matching FB configs or visuals is found, and libgl-air failed to load driver SWRSAT. And then it goes on to complain about a VGA-compatible NVIDIA graphics card, a G960GLM. Anyways, if you've seen this before on your Arch or Ubuntu travels or know of a solution, please let me know, Andrew. I might have a solution. It's tough to say, Andrew, because I'm not sure. I'd have to. It could be just you're having video card driver issues, but definitely under Arch, if you want to install Steam, you have to go enable in Arch the multi-lib repo and install the 32-bit versions of things like your driver for your video card, maybe 32-bit versions of the Pulse audio libraries or also audio libraries. So Steam is a 32-bit application, and pretty much all the games are 32-bit. So you're on a 64-bit environment, and you might be on like a lean 64-bit environment. Maybe you haven't had to install a lot of 32-bit stuff. So that might be one thing that's causing you issues. If you don't have the 32-bit libraries for your video card, then Steam doesn't think you have 3D acceleration. So that could be what you're running into. No, what do you think? Am I barking up the right tree?
Yeah. Yep. That's what I've always done is the 32-bit, and Ubuntu has the same thing, the IA32 libs.
Yep.
You install that, and Steam seems to work perfectly once you get that done.
I'm not totally clear on Ubuntu, but under Arch, using real Linux, you have to install the NVIDIA 32-bit driver, but there's a package that just takes care of all of that for you. I'm not sure how you do it on Ubuntu. I'm not sure if when you...
On fake Linux?
Well, because you go into that driver wizard, and it just sits there for a while, and then eventually gives you a list of things you could install, and some of them are like the same exact thing, and you don't know what that does. Yeah. And then you click it, and it's not clear. Is it installing 64 bits and 32 bits, or just which bits? And so it leads to this exact problem. Right? Because if Andrew had specifically installed the 64-bit and 32-bit versions, he would be aware of that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it leads to this exact kind of issue when you're trying to troubleshoot later on.
Well, you know what they say. If you make a operating system for fools, only fools will use it, right?
It's nice. I mean, it's nice to have it. All right. Do you want to take the...
Ankit.
Yeah.
Ankit writes in with questions for Chris and Noah. Hope all is well. I've been a Linux user for about 8 years, full-time for about 3 years, and a long-time listener of LAS. Thanks for all of JB's hard work in putting out fantastic shows throughout the week. I'm headed into my medical residency and plan on practicing in outpatient clinic. As such, I'm very interested in being able to participate, time allowing, in managing my own clinic IT and EMR. Everything from server-side administration to printing, faxing, backup, and of course, setting up clients, etc.
Nice.
Of course, we will do everything open source. I'm aware of a plethora of software options available, including EMR, and I'm comfortable with them. I don't know where to start with respect to gaining more Linux competency. I was hoping to get some input from either of you about this. I am familiar with setting up Linux from personal users' point of view, but would really like to learn system administration and other competencies needed for the goals that I have mentioned above. I don't know what these competencies should be, and I'm stuck with wondering what certifications, if any, would be useful. I'd really appreciate your thoughts on this and push in the right direction. Thanks.
Very nice.
So I'd start off by saying this. First off, if you're interested in actually learning about Linux and not necessarily obtaining a job that is going to employ you based on your Linux skills, I wouldn't necessarily worry about certification. Okay, because the reality is certification, other than maybe giving you that extra confidence boost to say I know how to do this because I'm certified,
or the foot in the door for the interviews if you're having a hard time getting a gig.
Right. If you're looking for that, but if this guy is not doing that, he is going to, from what I understand from his email, he's going to be administrating his own network, his own place. And if that's the case, certification it's a waste of time. So what I would do is money. I would look at things and money. I would look at things like Linux Academy. That's going to be a great way to improve your skills, and you can go over there and pick a specific task that you want to learn about and learn about it in bite-sized pieces. So, for example, in the medical world, the most open source from EMR that I have the most familiarity with is OpenEMR, and we've supported it for a couple clients. In fact, I'm aware of a company that works out of Minneapolis that does custom-rolled solutions based around OpenEMR. So you call them, you say you want an EMR, they come out, they set everything up for you, and it's just good to go. If you did that, basically you would start with simple things like assigning an IP address to the server so that it exists. And that is something that you could do. And I have a client that does this, runs that EMR on DigitalOcean. So that's a great way to go. And it's a great way to get started with that. And of course, we manage the server for them. But if you wanted to do it yourself, essentially, once you get the basic ideas of installing software via the command line, and you get the idea of SSH and SCP, once you get those basic things down, you can get a usable system. And then what I would do is I would tackle problems as you come across them. I wouldn't necessarily try to go out with the shotgun approach because you're never going to be able to.
Let me jump in here, and I want to make something 100% clear. I'm not going to make a dime by saying this. Linux Academy does not sponsor the Linux Action Show. I make no money. If you want to do me a favor and you want to check them out after I say this, go to linuxacademy.com/unplugged or Coders. You pick. That would actually support the network. But here's the thing. Linux Academy has recently introduced this feature called Nuggets, and they're just like one-off tasks. Like, I need to learn how to set up NTP, and I don't need a whole course on all of this. I don't need to learn how NTP works necessarily. I need to know how to configure it, how to implement it, and how to secure it. And so they have these nuggets now. And so if you are in the position of our writer here, where you need to rapidly expand your knowledge, and maybe you do want to slip into certifications at some point, like you want to be able to set up a course where you could go certs if you want, Linux Academy is there. I don't know of a better system out there to do it. Honestly, if these guys weren't doing this, what Linux Academy is, I think I would retool Jupiter Broadcasting to do what they're doing, because it is so exactly what the Linux community needs. And so I just, even if they don't sponsor this show, I wish they could. I wish I put more sponsors in this show, because they would be my first pick to go in this show, because they're so perfect for you guys. And it really, he needs to go over there and just look at all of his options and try stuff out, because they're going to give you a virtual machine that you can go bang on and break. And the thing is, and again, they're not paying me to say this, it's scenario-based training, so you're going to go deploy a scenario and then actually walk away with experience on how to do that. So you've essentially done it once when you have to go set it up on your own home network. So you're still learning, obviously, when you set it up on your home network, but it won't be the very first time you've done something, because the first time you set something up, you get it done, you're like, oh, that's great. Now I want to completely redo it and set it up correctly. And so that's the nice thing about the scenario-based training, is you kind of go through that the right way once, and then when you go to do it yourself, when you go set up your own server, you're not totally a noob at it. It gives you a little bit of confidence. So yeah, that would be great. Also, another quick follow-up. Rekai found the solution for our Steam users' issues. So we have linked to that in the show notes. If you've also experienced the same problem that our Ubuntu 15.04 writer is, Rekai found an Ask Ubuntu thread that looks like the solution, and the chat room has verified that does look like the correct fix. So we have a fix in the show notes in the feedback section. Did you have any other closing thoughts on that email? Are you ready for the next one?
Yep, I'm ready for the next one.
Okay. DD writes in, and he says, hi. Can you say what theme it is you use and which version of Linux you're using? I think it's Ubuntu, and he links us to a video where we're reviewing OpenSUSE 13.2, and it's a shot of my desktop, which is kind of like desktopception right now, because you're looking at my desktop, looking at my desktop. And I'm looking at my desktop, looking at my desktop, looking at my desktop. Wow. So I get this question a lot. And this is on the video, this is Numix that you see there. And Numix is one that I've used a long time. I've recently changed things up a little bit just because I got a recommendation to do so. And I thought, you know what, it is probably time. So I'd like to tell you about a new GTK theme that I think is really great. So I think it's coming from the SolOS project. I think perhaps they're the ones developing it. It's called EvoPop, EVOPOP. I might be wrong on the origins, but it's gorgeous. It's a GTK theme combined with icons and a shell theme. And all of it together is I think, I like it because it's a little differential or irreverential, I guess is the way to say it. Like it's not taking itself too seriously. It's still incredibly well designed, and it doesn't look like anything on any of the proprietary desktops. I don't know any other desktop out there that looks quite like this. Now, I've opted to turn on the dark theme here because I happen to just think that looks a little nicer on my eyes, especially when I work late. But they also do have it available as a lighter theme. Oh, I guess I'd have to change more than just that. I'm wrong. But they do have available in different theme colors too. I just happen to think it looks extremely elegant. So again, it's EvoPop, EVOPOP, and they have the GTK theme, the icon theme, and a shell theme for GNOME 3. And it really brings it all together, including support for the new GNOME notification area, which makes the notifications really bold, makes the calendar easy on the eyes. So I like it a lot. Previous themes that you saw was Numix, and the icon theme was Numix Squared. Do you mess with your themes much, Noah, or are you good with like when you install Fedora, you good?
I just leave it. and then I come to Jupiter Broadcasting, and Chris and Rick, I go, your fonts look terrible. Your windows look terrible. Your icons look terrible.
Yeah.
Don't you have any icon packs? Why didn't you customize the icon packs? I'm like, because I don't care.
Yeah.
I can open the folders. That's all that matters.
But you don't you? But you don't even feel compelled to lick your icons? That's so weird. No, I know. I do get.
I change it. Here's the my extent to my customization is I change the folder view from the like the big fat folders to the list view where it's all one list.
Yeah, I do that.
And
too,
then I change it from the default zoom from all the way into 33%, so they're very small.
Oh.
Past that, I don't, because I want to see as many files on the screen at one time as I can. Past that, I don't
Okay,
care.
all right. And then one last, since we're this far in, Heaven's Revenge is right. I should probably mention some of the extensions I use. Try them at your own risk. So Caffeine. Caffeine's a great extension because you can click it and then it keeps your monitor on all the time. It's just a little coffee cup up in my screen. I click that and then you see I get a little notification there. Auto suspend and screensaver are disabled. I click it again and now my screensaver and lock settings all come back to normal. This is great if I just for a stretch of time don't want my screen to lock for some reason. Maybe I'm watching a movie. Maybe I'm encoding a file. That's called Caffeine. Dash to dock is what gives me the Unity-like dock along the side. I've modified it to expand to the whole side, sort of like Unity interface, only doesn't look like it was written in 1993. I also have the Imager screenshot uploader tool that allows me to screenshot anywhere on my screen and then automatically post it on Imager. Minimum Workspaces is one of my favorite GNOME extensions. Minimum Workspaces allows me to have 4 set fixed workstations. I don't like dynamically generating workstations. Give me 4 and then generate beyond that. That's what Minimum Workspaces does. That's how I just prefer to use. I like to know that there's 4 I can move things around. So that's a good one.
Yeah, and one thing that really plays into that is I like to have my web browser on my first workspace, my email on my second one, and then I put various tasks on 3, 4, and so on and so forth. Well, the problem becomes is I like to not have my email up on the screen all the time because I open my laptop in front of a client. I don't necessarily want that coming out. Well, the problem is with that, if you don't set that minimum workspace, what happens is I go to close my Firefox window, which happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, all of a sudden now my email's up. I'm like, what? Well, how did that happen?
Yeah,
I close my email. Now my porn's up. Why is my porn up? I didn't want my porn to come up. So that was on workspace 3. Stay there. So if you have that minimum workspace, that problem goes
Takes care
away.
of that. All right, now, this is my favorite. This is my boo of extensions. It's called Ping Indicator, and I cannot believe how much value I get out of one little extension. I want to meet this guy or gal and buy them a beer. It's Ping Indicator, and all it does is puts the milliseconds up in my toolbar, how long it takes to ping whatever IP I've defined. I did Google DNS because that's what it came with, and you know what? Google builds for you to ping them, so you don't have to feel so guilty. But it turns out getting the response time to Google in my toolbar is very, 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 very useful because I'm familiar with networks, and I'm familiar with how latency can translate to poor performance for things like video streaming when talking to Noah, Steam downloads, or just waiting for pages to display while I'm sitting here talking to my audience. Having those milliseconds there gives me an idea of what my expectations should be. And now, because I know my network, I can tell by looking at my toolbar when Rikai is uploading a video to YouTube or when maybe a Skype call is going to have problems, all simply because I have the milliseconds of how long it takes to get from my house or my studio to Google. And the other great thing about that, Noah, is I have it on all my laptops too. So any Wi-Fi network I'm on, so if I go to public Wi-Fi, I immediately know what kind of a performance to expect before even my first web page loads. It's a ton of information I get just by having ping status in my toolbar. So that's Ping Indicator.
You'll also know if Google DNS goes down.
Yeah, that too. I also have the places indicator, which is not so useful, but it just gives me quick access to all my Nautilus favorites right here, and it just launches Nautilus right to that area. So I figure instead of clicking Nautilus and then clicking on a location, it's nice just to have a menu bar entry, and if I just want to go to my videos folder, it's just one click. Of course, it launched the wrong program. Then the last few themes I have is uptime indicator. So you can see my Bonobo's been running for 7 days, and the last reboot was last Linux Action Show at 8:45 a.m. while I was setting up for the show. So that's neat. I just like getting that information because my Linux rigs run for quite a while. And Workspace Indicator is the last extension that I'm actively using. I have a bunch of others installed, but they're disabled. Workspace Indicator just gives me a number and tells me what workspace I'm in under GNOME, allows me to jump directly to one, or what I actually use it for all the time is I just put my mouse over it, and then I just use my scroll wheel, and I scroll through all the different workspaces. And it just scrolls at the speed of my scroll wheel, which is either really fast or really slow. And the other thing is sometimes because all my workspaces under GNOME look alike, and if I don't have any windows open, and I don't know immediately what workspace I'm at, I can just look up at my toolbar and go, oh, I'm on workspace 1. All right, I'll launch Chrome here. So yeah, those are my extensions. Those are my theme. Putting all of that together, and this is just my personal opinion, makes GNOME 3 an unbeatable productivity environment. I think in terms of the way it looks, the way it performs, the features that it offers, but yet somehow magically completely staying out of my way where I would completely even forget I'm using GNOME. And this is fundamentally where KDE begins to kind of fall down, is KDE is never able to fully get out of my way. And part of it is it's so enticing for me to play with it. I just can't help myself. GNOME, I get it kind of set up with these extensions, and I feel like I've created this mecca of productivity, and I'm good. And I just start focusing on my work. And it has a very good flow for me to do that. You know, the way I happen to work with clips and media and different web browsers, and, you know, the fact that I have on one screen, I have my web browser. On the next screen, I have the demo application. Like in this case, it was Lutris or Qbittorrent. On the next screen, I have my chat room. And on the last screen, I have my soundboard. For my particular workflow, it's perfect for all of that kind of stuff. So you take all these extensions, you add those themes, GNOME 3 on top of basically any kind of Linux. I prefer Arch, but any kind of Linux, it's a great environment. Not saying it's necessarily best for everyone. Sure is for me, though. And Noah, I think it's great that you don't need all those extensions or themes.
Yeah.
I really do. I really do.
I mean,
because it takes less
fun.
setup.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is if I didn't switch laptops every time the wind changed directions, I might actually buckle down and configure a machine and add some of that stuff in. The problem is I spend a couple hours doing that, and then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I'm going to switch machines, and then I have to do it all over again.
Well,
so
and it's not,
I just get to a point where I just learn how to use the way it is.
I totally agree. I completely, and I try not to go overboard with this stuff because of that, but I end up just finding all this stuff I love so much I can't help myself. And you know what the cost is? When the next version of like when GNOME 3.18 comes out, some of the stuff might break, right? Yeah. I was really fortunate. Between GNOME 3.14 and 3.16, like almost nothing broke. It was really a smooth upgrade. Wow. That's almost never the case, though. At least it hasn't been so far. Maybe they're getting better about it. So there are definite downsides. And until they get that API for the extension stable, which could be never, that's always going to be one of the disadvantages of using GNOME. But I find now that GNOME 3, and basically it's almost raw state, like you use it, is usable enough that I can run it for like a couple of weeks like that until the extension authors update their extensions, and then I just slowly add back all these neat things. But even in its raw version, it's still pretty usable for me these days. It's come a long way. I mean, I was one of the big haters, so and now I'm married to it. Now
you're on.
Noah, you mentioned it earlier, but if I wanted to, find out what you do for a day gig, maybe get some services if I was in the Grand Forks area, or maybe even outside there, where would I go, Noah?
Yeah, if you head over to altispeed.com, we do commercial IT support, residential IT support. We've done everything from people are building a building and they want simply somebody to come in there and pull wires through the ceiling and drop them down and put in the server infrastructure and put in the workstations and teach people how to use the software that we put on there. We've done everything from that all the way up to we do contracting work for different companies. They have a presence in Grand Forks and they want somebody to manage their IT infrastructure. They don't want somebody to take over. They just want somebody to go over there and re-image a workstation or manage a specific server or swap out a specific switch. We do stuff like that.
Nice.
And that's what puts bread on the table.
I like it.
And of course we do that using Linux.
And you can also find him at twitter.com/kernellinux. For a long time I've said you could find me at twitter.com/chrislas. This might be changing.
Really?
Well, this Twitter account, I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but this Twitter account has always sort of really been this weird mix of official JB News and my personal tweets.
Yeah.
And so I might just break them off at some point and just have a personal Twitter account and an official JB account.
Mm-hmm.
So brace yourselves for that. We'll let you know when that happens. But right now, find me at twitter.com/ChrisLas. Well, whatever we do, I'll be keeping that handle. So twitter.com/ChrisLas. There just might be some changes in the near future. Don't forget, too, we do this show live on Sundays. We start usually around 10 a.m. Pacific. That's... Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. Get that converted to your local time zone. And then we usually keep going. The faux show comes up after this. And if you can only listen on the go, maybe you're driving on a Sunday. Taking a Sunday drive, are you? jblive.info for the audio only. Or maybe you just want theater of the mind. That's why I like audiobooks. jblive.info will do that. And don't forget, if you want to make this show better, engage with the community, give us app picks, news stories to cover, or insights, linuxactionshow.reddit.com. And if you want your email read on the show, you go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact or just email us directly, linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com. Noah, is there anything else we need to cover on this week's show?
I think we covered everything and then some.
Wow, that's a big show then. That's a really big show.
I think so.
Okay, everybody. Well, thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you right back here next week. But one of the reasons why Lutris appeals to me is I found myself simply avoiding GOG and Humble Bundle because I just like having everything in one place in Steam. I just like launching Steam and all my games.
Right?
Right?
No kidding.
But sometimes GOG is like, for example, this new I forgot to mention the Star Trek game. That new Star Trek game that's super really great that I run under DOSBox isn't even available under Linux on Steam. So I have to get it from GOG.
Yeah.
So I needed to find something to manage it, and that's where Lutris came in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rikai, put that in the outtakes.
Yeah, actually, you know how amazing that is that when you when I go to install a computer and I sit down, I'm like, oh, I got to get my games. Oh, I'll just sign into Steam and click install.
Yep, I know. Yep. That's honestly why I like the AUR too, because I do that same thing from the command line. Packer-S, walk away. And I do -- no confirm -- no edit. Yeah, that's right. I do that, and then I walk away, and I get back, and all of my software is installed.
Yep, we do. And the thing is, Windows 10 has to be successful, right? At least from if you're a person that likes Microsoft, you better hope that Windows 10 is successful because according to Microsoft, that's the end of the road.
No, that's bullshit. Come on.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But that's what they say.
No, they're even backing down on the statement now. They're even starting to restate that.
Really?
They've not completely, but what they're saying is so this came out last week. What that statement means is we're not focusing on anything but Windows 10 right now.
Oh, okay.
That's not what it means. That's not what that statement means. That is not what Windows 10 is the last version of Windows ever. Is not the same thing as saying we're not focusing on Windows.
Yeah.
We're not focusing on the next version yet. And the other thing they've done, they've now backed away from, you probably saw this, is we're going to give Windows 10 away to pirates. It doesn't matter if you don't have a legitimate copy of Windows. Since this is the last version of Windows, we're going to allow Windows pirates to upgrade for free. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't. But honestly,
and now
if
it doesn't matter because they've already backtracked. No, it doesn't matter. Oh. They've already backtracked and said they're not doing that. So it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing: if you're Microsoft, if I was Microsoft, I would be doing both of those things because both of those things seem like they're in the best interest of Microsoft. Of course it would
be. That's why it's painful that they don't even think about it. Or you know what else you would do if you're Microsoft? Not 7 different editions of Windows 10. And by the way, that's just the consumer. There's even more when you get into the business and enterprise and the medical businesses.
You know what?
And embedded.
That bit me. Not 8, but 7. They had that 7 starter edition. I never really knew exactly what the difference was, and I was at a client a couple weeks ago, and you can only install 3 programs, and then it stops you from installing more. Mine was blown. But apparently there's a limitation to how many pieces of software you can install before you have to pay the extra, whatever it is, $69 to upgrade to the Home Basic or whatever.
But anyways, go ahead and put it on your Raspberry Pi.